how can we focus on evolution? How can we, when we're totally
achieve what she calls full spectrum wellness and aliveness, and her expertise will be in Hey, welcome to the Mindfulness Experience Podcast. How are you?
I'm great, Keith. How are you?
I'm
Excited to
in,
be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. I can feel myself, brimming with excitement because I want to hear all about Ka. Ka, I love that name.
Yes.
All right, great name. And I also want to hear about your journey from finance to the Alchemist Kitchen to Ka, and
Yes.
also about your session at the Wonderland Miami 2023 conference. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, what brought you to the conference, and what you're going to be talking about?
Absolutely. And I just want to say you said Ka so well, because part of the reason we named our company Ka is because, well, many reasons, but one big reason is Ka is ancient Egyptian for life force, right?
Ka!
So it's Ka, and there's an exclamation mark behind that because this is a nod to the origin of the main ingredient of Ka, which is Kanna, also called scaletium, which is from South Africa. And the traditional stewards of Kanna have been the Khoikhoi and the San people of Southern Africa, the indigenous of Southern Africa. And part of their language, they have, the exclamation mark, obviously is the anglicized translation of that, but essentially how it's pronounced is a click. So it's like, and there's three kinds of clicks. There's like something like, I'm butchering it, I'm sure, but we want to also just remind, ourselves and everyone, where, as with many, many different kinds of plant medicines around the world, the original stewards and the people who've kept this knowledge and wisdom alive so that we are we can actually benefit from it. Yeah. So
great. Well, I'm glad I pronounced it right. I know I don't want to blow up the mic, but yeah, it's such a great name and really has a lot of force and power to it. And you've got this trajectory of your life, which is so interesting to me. And here you are at Wonderland. Can you kind of walk us through where you've been and where you are now and where you hope to, well, we don't have to talk about the far future, but certainly what you're doing over at Wonderland.
Sure. So a quick summary of the whole trajectory is simply that, growing up in Hong Kong, Chinese family, certain expectations, a much more conservative culture. For me personally, this was just my story, there was a lot of suppression. There was, a lot of trauma from childhood. And, I was depressed for a long time. That actually led me into trying to discover what was going on within me. And it just led to a lifelong passion of being a seeker, of how to elevate consciousness, how to heal myself, and how to just understand what it means to be a human being and how to thrive in the world. And so that's always fascinated me. And again, because of my background, I started off in finance, but then quickly realized it was really ultimately not feeding my soul. And so I went into the arts. I was in film for some time. And then finally, a lot of this I can attribute to starting to do plant medicine journeys, psychedelic plant medicine journeys, as well as non-psychedelic ones, back in 2013. And that really accelerated my own healing and growth. And that was around the same time that I met the folks at Evolver, And that's how I joined the company eventually. And then we birthed the Alchemist's Kitchen. And that was really sort of, the psychedelic plants actually brought me further into the world of plants. And, plants are plants, all part of nature. You have those that are obviously non-psychoactive and psychedelic. And then you have those master teaching plants, which are very psychoactive or psychedelic. And it's just
I call those the wisdom medicines.
Yes, the medicines, right? I mean, yes, they're all medicines, but you definitely have some that I would call sacred plant medicines. So from that point on, I just continued working with plants. And when I first did my very first plant medicine journey, it was not with ayahuasca or psilocybin, it was actually with Kanna. And that left such an imprint, because it was the first time that I felt my heart so open and felt connected to such a profound feeling of love and belonging. And I think in that very moment, maybe subconsciously, it was 10 years ago, I had said, I really want to bring this to more people, to make it accessible to people so that, they can have it outside of ceremony contexts. And, but first let me, I wanted to work with it personally, and then started to do a lot of scientific research behind, what the chemical compositions, how the alkaloids worked. And that was in the last 4 or 5 years. And then finally we launched Empathogenics last year in 2022 in July. And so this was very much a culmination of many years of wanting to bring this in the most integrous way that I could to the world. And how this has led me to Wonderland is because Wonderland is an amazing conference which brings together people from not just industry, but regular people who are interested in psychedelic plants. And this year's theme is beyond mental health. There's also longevity and some other themes as well. And it's just a great place to share this information because, as I'm sure you know, now that psychedelics, because of the psychedelic renaissance, a lot of this is out in the open. It's part of the zeitgeist. It's really part of the mainstream. And yet there is still so much education needed because people start to generalize and think, oh, one psychedelic is exactly the same as the other. There's safety concerns, of course, but just really having a platform to educate and share stories of healing and also just about discoveries, right? Because we're not that these plants are new necessarily, but we're rediscovering them in new ways in a modern scientific, in a modern world context. So how do we integrate that? And also, how do we still honor the traditional wisdom, the ancient wisdom that has come with stewardship of these plants for millennia by indigenous people, and how to incorporate them into the dialogue as well? So there's a lot of things going on, but venues like Wonderland are great for bringing all of that together.
Right. And you've got, and first of all, congratulations on your success. I mean, here you are, you launched last year, you're at the Wonderland conference. You've got this incredible background that's a wonderful platform and a foundation for you to go ahead and launch a lot of this, and the insight and the wisdom to go ahead and bring it to market. So I know that you're doing a session at Wonderland. It's I believe you said it's going to be transformative plants. Is that right? And what day and time?
I think it's transformational plants.
Transformational plants. Okay, good. And that's on the 11th. You said the 11th of November.
It might be transformative, but I can't remember. It's one or the other. It's on November the 11th at 4 p.m.
Great. So I'm wondering, looking at your work with Ka and entheogenics, how does that align with the conference focus on conscious evolution and transformative technologies? How does that, come together from your view?
So one of the main, I would say, benefits of Kanna, or the characteristics of Kanna, is that It is a natural serotonin reuptake inhibitor, as well as a serotonin releasing agent. So it has the ability to calm and also uplift at the same time. It activates receptors for GABA, for opioids, for cholecystokinin, and for melatonin. So it operates on a lot of different neuroreceptors. And we are so often today, the big disease is stress, right? Depression is another one. And when we are in those states where we are emotionally dysregulated, we're in this constant fight or flight, we cannot, how can we focus on evolution? How can we, when we're totally in this survival mode? So Kanna is a fantastic ally for actually helping us calm our brain activity, to come back to the present moment, and to bring us back into homeostasis. What is really interesting is that Kanna is an empathogen. It opens you up to being more emotionally available, to more empathy, to more connection and compassion towards others, as well as towards yourself. And really opening yourself to be more available to love is really what it's doing as well. And so what's great about, and how to relate Kanna to consciousness, is it's actually helping us get out of this fight or flight mind space and start to connect to our heart space as well. And that is, accessing, not just our mental capacity, but also our heart intelligence as well. And what is super interesting is that maybe some people don't know this, but the heart is the largest emitter of electromagnetic frequency. And the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain does to the heart. So the vagus nerve is one aspect of it, but essentially the heart mind sends and redirects signals to the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the thalamus, the cerebral cortex, as well as the medulla. So it's something that most of us don't think of, because we often think of the mind and the brain, here we are, it's in our heads. We now often think of our gut as the second brain, right? That's now become sort of in the common language. But very few people talk about heart intelligence. And it's here. And when we are no longer in we're fight or flight, and we are connected to our presence, right? We're able to access this heart intelligence, because it is part of our whole intelligence as a human being. And in that sense, we're able to be more conscious, be more present, be more empathetic, be more connective with others, as well as noticing, what kinds of emotions or feelings we have suppressed in ourselves. Because, most of us run around a lot of the times being completely dissociated from our own feelings, because we're busy, we have to just get things done. There's a lot of stress. So when we can actually come back into this state, it's actually connecting to our own wisdom, our own consciousness. We now have a pause and a breath almost to really fully expand into that. And Kanna is a beautiful, beautiful ally for that. And on top of, yes.
I was just going to say, I absolutely love what you're saying. This, the heart mind, body, I would say the heart mind lung connection, because I'm a very big believer in that sort of trinity of the mind connecting to the heart, and the lungs when you breathe. So you're really saying that Kanna is first of all, it's a legal empathogen.
It is.
So it's a pathogen. Sorry, I keep doing that. But it's a legal empathogen, and right? And
it is a legal empathogen.
It's legal, yes.
It's legal, and it's legal in all 50 states. It's legal in most of the countries that I know of internationally. The only one state it's not legal in is in Louisiana.
Those people in Louisiana, what's going on?
Well, Damiana and I think also Blue Lotus are prohibited there as well. So, but other than that, it's legal everywhere. And what's beautiful about Kanna is that it's a legal psychoactive. It's not psychedelic, so it won't give you hallucinogenic, effects.
Right.
And so what's also really cool about it is that it's a lovely way for people who maybe are not ready for psychedelics, but they still want that sort of, I want to feel that oneness a little bit. I want to have a taste of what it's like. And it's a great gateway for facilitators actually to use to help people get into the psychedelic space if they are feeling trepidatious. It's also Kanna, being a serotonin replenisher, is also great for post psychedelic journeys, depending on, I guess, what kind of medicines or psychedelics you're using. But sometimes serotonin can be really depleted, so it's a great way to replenish, and a great way to actually integrate your experiences, because usually, in a psychedelic space, there is a lot is going on. There's a lot of sometimes it's harder to recall exactly what went on, and it takes time, right, for us afterwards, for the ego and for your consciousness to kind of really digest and kind of piece together what happened. And Kanna, because it has this ability to bring you back into your body, into your heart, and help you process emotions, it's a really fantastic ally for post ceremony, to help integrate. And also in between psychedelic journeys, when you want to actually tap into that field of oneness, Kanna is also an incredible ally for that.
Right. So, when as you started talking, I was thinking about, so many people are very A-type. They're maybe using some of the trauma that they had in the past to go ahead and project into the construct of who they want to be in the future. So they don't really take a lot of time to really be present to the now. And to your earlier point, when you start to get to that point where you might, be just burned out, you might have the cash and prizes, you might have everything you want, or you get to the point where you kind of wonder, what is this all about? What am I really doing here? And that might be an opening for a plant ceremony. It might be something where you kind of go, well, I really want to go deeper. I really want to connect. So what I hear you saying is that, it might also be an opportunity for you to look at Ka and Kanna as a way to just sort of get into your body, to relax the default mode network, which is moving you maybe into a fight or flight mode, and activating your amygdala, activating that side of yourself that says you've got to kill the dinosaur, and you've got to go ahead and you've got to get your it's a disparity consciousness place that a lot of people get into when they get into that fight or flight mode. So Kanna is something that allows you to just sort of settle back into your body, feel relaxed more, connect your head with your heart, breathe a little bit more, and really have a sense of the space that you're in and who you are and where you are, and give yourself a little, it's like MDMA. It sounds a little like MDMA, like a heart opener, but it's not. It's not MDMA. Or what are there parallels that from your view, or tell me a little bit?
So many people have, it's been a bit of a meme, and a lot of people speak of Kanna as nature's MDMA, but I think it's important to get the record straight. And it was, of course, there was a big article a while back by Vice that also compared the two. So I think where they're similar is that Kanna is definitely a heart opener, and MDMA is as well. So that feeling of, I feel connected, that oneness, that openness.
I love you. Yeah.
I love you. That's part of it. And I would say that is definitely a similarity. But beyond that, huge differences. That's why these days I really try not to even
chemical structure being huge,
completely different. So for example, MDMA has amphetamines and Kanna does not. Kanna, of course, is 100% from nature. MDMA is synthetic. Another big part is that MDMA, you have to be very careful not to, when you're taking it continuously, because it will damage your neurological system. Whereas Kanna is neuroprotective. It's actually adaptogenic. That's a massive difference. And most people don't even realize that. So Kanna is super neuroprotective. You can take it every day. It's not something.
There's no sort of contraindications like with MDMA.
There is.
If you had heart issues with MDMA, you don't want to be taking that. It's sort of like taking a methamphetamine in some way.
So absolutely. So contraindications is something we definitely have to talk about. So Kanna also has, because it's changing the level of serotonin in your body, it definitely has contraindications when it comes to any medications that affect serotonin levels. So, for example, for people who are taking SSRIs, MAOIs, or SNRIs, or any CNS depressants, they really should not be taking Kanna at the same time.
Okay. So SSRIs are out.
SSRIs are out. So, this is a whole other discussion. But I know there's certain doctors that are trying to wean their patients off of SSRIs, and they're trying to figure out how to substitute it with Kanna. So again, we are not medical professionals. Just want to say that, and we're not giving any medical advice. But that I know that there are healthcare professionals out there who slowly titrate SSRIs up as they use Kanna to slowly titrate back up, so that the body is balanced, and it doesn't so the patient doesn't get into any serious problems. So there's that. I'm glad we covered that.
Right.
But
now with MDMA, there's a whole issue around heart. Heart patients, people who have high blood pressure, people who are hypertension, areas like that. Anything like that with Kanna?
A little bit, yes. Not as severely as not to the extent where I would say MDMA there's that concern. So I think it all depends again on what kind of medications, how long they've been taking it for, the dose of Kanna. Ketamine is another example for people who are already taking ketamine. They're like, oh, can you take Kanna with ketamine? And it's in small doses, yes, but again, you have to be careful if they have high blood pressure, because you don't want to, it's just so it's on a case-by-case basis. I think people have to be very aware, but the big ones are definitely all what I just said, which is SSRIs, MAOIs, SNRIs, and CNS depressants. One just has to be careful. But as with any medications or pharmaceuticals that someone's already taking, it's best to speak with a healthcare professional.
Right. So I understand that Kanna can be in terms of the South African plant, can be, if it's taken raw, can be not pretty tasty. Tell me about Ka. Does it have a good taste to it, or yes. What's different about, like, if I went out and got a South African plant, just brought it back and said, "Here's my Kanna." Would I get the same impact as maybe using Ka, or is there a difference between what you're doing there and what I might get if I went out to my backyard and pulled up my Kanna plant? Not that I have one yet.
You could. There is a big difference, and one of the things that to look out for, there's a difference between Kanna extract and then Kanna raw herb, right? So if you take a Kanna plant, how people take it and make it in South Africa is they usually take the plant, they dry it, they ferment it, and then make powder, and then use that as the herb to take. You can also make Kanna tea. You can use, you can have it as, you can insufflate it, so sniff it. You can also chew it. The indigenous peoples used to chew the roots as they went on multi-day hunts, because it also helped sustain their energy levels and kept their thirst and hunger at bay, while helping them really focus, and also helping them really feel open and connected to nature and everything around them. So that's a big difference, whether you're dealing with a raw herb versus an extract, right? And also it depends on the kind of Kanna plant this herb extract came from, the herb came from, or whether the extraction came from, because you have to look at the alkaloid content, right? And so it's really therefore important to distinguish when you are looking for Kanna and it says, oh, how many milligrams of how many milligrams? It's like, first of all, is it extract or is it raw herb? So in our case, we use high potency standardized Kanna extract, which was extracted through a patented process to make it standardized. So it is very, very potent, and you just need a lot less of it. So with the chews and also the tincture, I mentioned earlier, we spent for almost 5 years just going through the R&D. A part of that was to create something that was tasty as well, so people would like the taste, because by itself, Kanna is very bitter. And, thanks to our amazing team, which includes, a flavor scientist, we've managed to create something that you can actually chew and take as a tincture, and they both taste, they're different, but they both taste great, and there's no added sugars, no preservatives even. And I do want to say with the chews, it's super interesting because we were insistent on making something that was super clean, right? That did not have any junk in it. And it's really hard when you're trying to make something chewable that's not a gummy. Like a gummy will have sugar, will have, and then anytime you go into that sugar aspect, you then, creating a gummy, you're going to have to boil the herbs up to, 300 degrees. But we didn't do that. We actually made this chew, these Kanna chews in room temperature, so that all of the ingredients are super bioactive because they haven't been degraded by heat.
And they taste good. Yeah.
Yes.
So like, I have these B12, I take these because I'm pretty much a vegan by diet. I have a little fish every once in a while now, but I have these cherry, B12, and they're really tasty. I take them I take them during the day. It says one a day, but I'm like popping them, B12, because your body doesn't store B12. So I'm wondering about Kanna. Is that kind of a thing that you can, because the chews, they're tasty, and you can, I heard you say earlier, you really have to watch your dosing. So yes, I'm really wondering with this, what is a proper dose if you've got these, if I've got these near me, would I be okay, like popping a chew every, 2 or 3 hours or so, or what's the dosing on this?
So the dosage in each of the chews is 30 milligrams of high potency Kanna extract.
Okay.
And that we recommend as sort of a dose. Now, everybody's different. Some people are super sensitive. I know people who only need a quarter of that, and they're like, okay, we're good. Some people need 2. So it depends on, every person's genetics. And also, as with most plant medicines, the more you take it continuously, the more your body is primed to actually feel the full benefits. So that's what we encourage.
Meaning the less you need, right? You can.
The more definitely. And what's also interesting with Kanna is that there's no tolerance buildup. It's non-addictive, and there's no tolerance buildup. So Kanna, interestingly, is actually used to treat addiction in South Africa, especially alcoholism. Because Kanna has this way of sort of resetting the brain. It brings you back to, in a sense, homeostasis. It's really, really interesting plant in terms of how it works, on, for example, I mentioned addiction, but also hedonic cravings, meaning excessive cravings. What I mean by that is when you just want one potato chip and then you end up eating the whole bag because you're just like, salt, fat, and sugar.
They're designed that way. They are designed that way, no doubt.
So, but that's what I mean by hedonic. That's what it works
on. Yeah, that habit loop. Yeah.
Exactly. And what Kanna does is it gets you out of that loop. So it's really interesting because it's very sort of, it's very much going against, that addictive behavior. And
So I probably need 1 an hour. Is that what you're saying?
No, 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 not at all. My God, this is strong stuff. So I would say, you don't want to overdo it. So I would say for me, I take one in the morning. I'm good for the whole
You're
day.
good for the whole day. And
Whole
then
day.
you sleep like a baby at night, I bet, right?
I sleep better at night, especially with continuous intake of carb. But what's also cool is if, let's say, I'm extra stressed that day, or I'm going out and I don't want to drink, but I still want to feel that openness and connection, sociability. Right. I'll use the tincture and I'll re-up a little bit, right? Because the tincture is more fast acting, but it's not like a time release as the chew is.
So it's a wonderful social lubricant as well.
It is a wonderful social lubricant.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah,
that's great. So you're able to go ahead and do that. It sounds very different than other plant-based wellness supplements, and it sounds like a real powerful tool to really help promote, emotional well-being and mental health, and that, it being non-addictive. But what I hear you also saying is that the benefits, if you keep taking one every day, the benefits are really compounded. And that's the real benefit here. I mean, if you feel good, it's better living through chemistry. And this is a natural plant. So why not look at it that way?
Absolutely. And there's no tolerance buildup either. So you won't actually need more to achieve the same effect. You'll actually, in some ways, like I have found, certainly I need less and less, like as I go forward. So I'll only, because of its ability to regulate the nervous system and the amygdala, it's adaptogenic, like I mentioned. Over time, what I found is that, and for a lot of people, is that they just need that extra bit when they really are in a stressful situation, because their sort of baseline has shifted. If you know what I mean.
Right. Well, I'm really surprised that Kanna or Ka, I haven't heard, certainly you've been around for the year, but Kanna I really haven't heard more about. And I'm very kind of surprised by that. And you shared something a little earlier, which to me is very interesting, based on your research and your exploration into the properties of Kanna and developing, your product, about how it can really complement other psychedelics. And the whole area. I'm a psychedelic assisted therapy provider, so I primarily work with individuals on preparation, and I sit with them, but also on integration. So I'm really interested in this whole area of how individuals can activate some of the insights that they get through their journey, and really look at ways of bringing those insights into their lives. And, I work with them through a coaching area, looking at holistic practices and ways of looking at diet and exercise and mindset and, being able to rest and so on and so forth. So can you talk to that a little bit more? Because it sounds like Kanna is a really natural additive, if you will, to the overall process. And I'm very interested in that.
Thanks for asking that question. Yeah. And I think it's important to make a distinction between, let's say, stacking and layering. That's like doing it at the same time, in one journey, versus, how do we incorporate it into the process of psychedelic therapy or with other psychedelics? I think there's a difference. We always say, I'm going to use psilocybin as an example, so I love psilocybin, amazing plant, amazing fungi, but we don't recommend, if you're like on a high dose of psilocybin, do not combine Kanna with that for several reasons. Number one, it's because both affect serotonin levels. You don't want to get yourself into severe serotonin syndrome. And also I deeply believe that each plant, they're both teaching plants, they're amazing, beings, and that each should be given its own space when we are working with it, instead of trying to, bring on a guest.
So let me just distinguish something right here, because you started talking about stacking. So we're not talking about microdosing. Even people who might be microdosing, psilocybin and use a stack and look at, a small little dose. I mean, that might be
That's okay.
contraindicated. That's okay. Okay.
That's okay. I mean, what we say is there's a sweet spot. I would say anywhere from 160 milligrams to 200 milligrams of psilocybin plus Kanna. That's okay. But beyond that, you just have to be careful. Again, this is why the educational side of this is so important, because a lot of it is in the nuance, right? It's not a black and white thing. It's like, okay, well, how much, how often, when, are you giving yourself a break? So having said that, like I said, it's still good for someone who's trying it the first time. Please don't stack it, because it's really nice to see how it is by itself and how you're interacting with it and how you're coming into relationship with this plant, with any plant. But with Kanna, if it's someone's first time, when there's already too much going on, how are you going to distinguish which plant is doing what, first of all? And I think, it's being respectful as well, right? Because when you're meeting someone, it's like, you're not going to like, no, we're being present. I'm just present. I'm talking with you and I'm relating with you. So it's the same thing. I think having this attitude is important coming into a relationship with a new plant. And then later on, yes, the microdosing example, yes, you could do little here, little there. And at the end of the day, everybody will do whatever it is that they're going to do. But it's still, I think, important to share this information, because I think people tend to miss out a lot on what Kanna can offer, because it's a lot more subtle. That's another thing I want to bring up. It's not going to be like when you're doing a psychedelic, it's like hitting you over the head. It's like, oh my God, I'm totally mind blown. Kanna is much gentler. First of all, it's psychoactive, not psychedelic. But the microdosing of Kanna is very powerful, because it really, as with most microdosing, it really goes under the ego's radar. So it's working with you, but you're not necessarily super cognizant of it, but it's doing some amazing work over time, right? And in many ways, that's even more powerful in a totally different way than, let's say, a full-on heroic dose or ceremonial dose of plant medicine. And, and even on a ceremonial dose of Kanna, which is beautiful as well. And, that's a little bit different. But, the plant is still very gentle.
So what I'm really hearing is that, in terms of preparation, certainly you don't want to be using Kanna during, a ceremony, during a journey, whether or not it's with anything. I mean, you want to look at it on its own. And, just in terms of your, as a empathogenic, you really want to look at it as an opportunity for you to dive deep, really unhook yourself in a sober way, if you will, without the psychoactive properties, the hallucinogenic properties specifically. But
it is psychoactive.
It is psychoactive. It's not
definitely psychoactive.
Yeah, but it's not hallucinogenic.
No, it's not hallucinogenic.
Okay. Yeah, so you really have that opportunity to go ahead and look at where you're at, what's going on for yourself, and maybe feeling what's going on for others, and really have that sense. And even after your journey, then going back in and easing the journey, easing the impact of the journey in terms of your serotonin reuptake and the ability to really kind of be present for yourself as well as for others.
Yeah, and again, I think it's really important with an integration process, as you I'm sure know. How do we process a lot of the feelings that come up? Do we even want to look at them sometimes? And Kanna is beautiful in the sense that it helps you hold that space for yourself, right? Whether you're working with a facilitator or a therapist or not, it's a beautiful way to, in many ways, reconnect with the pieces of you that you didn't want to look at or that may be painful to look at. And it holds, it has this capacity to help you hold that and hold space for yourself to process those emotions, which is a big part of the integration process. And in that process, actually start to make sense of what you just went through, right? In a very intense journey. So there's that aspect. And I was going to say that, and I've lost my train of thought. But
well,
anyway.
I totally hear you. It's not just sort of, so many people are thinking that the medicine is the journey, but the medicine just shows you internally, you're the medicine. The medicine is inside of you, and the real opportunity is to open up to what your journey is and how to take the insights into your life as you go forward. So what I heard you saying is that Kanna or Ka is an opportunity for them to, not only take in what the journey was about, but then to reintegrate their lives.
Yes.
Change the story. If you change your story, you change your life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would also add to another aspect, because I mentioned Ka as a daily supplement. So it's not just about calming stress and sort of everyday anxiety. It's and it's not just about lifting mood, but what Kanna and Ka also does is it really helps. It's a nootropic as well. So it actually helps you improve cognitive function. So everything I've mentioned just now,
I need that cognitive function at this point in my
life.
All do. Stephanie, I need it.
So do I. Oh my God.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I'm looking at time, and I just want to make sure that we have some time here. I want to ask you a question. I saw your bio, and there was this wonderful quote that was in your bio, the Buckminster Fuller quote. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And it says, "You never change things by fighting against the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the old one obsolete." Can you speak to that and what it means to you personally?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes of Buckminster Fuller. What it means to me is that we have an opportunity to create a new paradigm. And you don't have to destroy or keep saying, complain about this thing that doesn't work. It's like, okay, well then let's build the new thing. And if it works, people will go to that one anyway. And to just focus on this and what it means. What is this new paradigm? It is, in my mind, something that works for 100% of life, right? It's very much akin to what regenerative culture is all about. So it's not just about sustainability. How do we regenerate? If we're taking from nature, how do we regenerate? How do we structure a different way of being, of doing business, of living that actually is regenerative and that works for not just one part of human beings, but all of us, and then also nature, the animals, and the web of life that we all belong to. So to me, and how does Kanna relate to that is again, when we are coming back to our own essence, right? And have that heart mind, we start to really understand this interconnection between you and me, between us and them, whoever them is. We understand, oh my goodness, we're connected to nature, we're connected to animals and insects. We start to actually be conscious of these connections, and plants, especially, I think entheogenic plants are really helpful, and empathogenic plants are really helpful for having us come to a realization of this truth. And that is how, when we can start to really embody that, that's when we really start to create change in the world in a very tangible way. We shift the world, right? And so, that's kind of the model that I hope that plant medicines.
I love that. And it sounds to me, I was going to ask you another question about your plans for Ka and empathogenics for the future, but it sounds to me like you're giving me that answer within that context, in terms of using, these plants as a way to really push the boundaries and help individuals change not only their lives but help change the world in some way. Is that?
I mean, our Close to it. I feel that, just, again, we're one company. And I say this with humility, of course, but that it takes all of us, right? It takes a village. And I feel that our mission is to restore full spectrum aliveness for all beings. That means, again, reconnection, right? Reconnecting to our own feelings. The full spectrum of life is not pushing away things like sorrow or anger. No, it's meant to, hey, let's come together. Let's process this. It's all part of what it means to be human. And I feel that, where we're going, we're going to be launching other products. We're going to be doing all of that. But our mission, the mission behind this and the message behind this is really having people come together. So what we're doing, we have an ambassador community. We're really, we've already launched that. We would love to get more people to be part of this community, right? Because it goes way beyond, just the products. It's about coming together and realizing the power and how the power of being human and to be empowered in our own healing and all of it. But that what we need so desperately right now in the world is this connection, is this interconnection with each other. And the pandemic, of course, threw us a curveball. And, I think it made us realize how important that was and how many people have suffered from isolation and loneliness. And this is why I also think Kanna is a plant for our time. It really is it's an empathogen. It's all about connecting us back together. Is kind of like the underlying teaching.
Give me my car.
Oh my car.com, which is our site.
So how do people get a hold of you, Stephanie, and find out more about the work you're doing, the very important work you're doing, and your company?
So our site is literally called ohmycar.com. ohmycar.com. And you can find us on there. You can just email us at hi@empathogenics.com. You can please follow us on Instagram. It's Empathogenics. So that's EMPATHOGENICS. Same handle on Facebook as well, and on TikTok as well. So there's just some ways.
I just followed you on Instagram. I'll get to the other ones shortly. So I'll be there with you. So I just want to say, Stephanie, it's just such a pleasure to talk to you and to hear your wisdom and to see the work you're doing in the world. And I'm really excited for your conversation and your panel in Florida, in Miami, at the Wonderland 2023 conference from November the 9th for the 11th. You're going to be on the 11th, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. So thank you so much for being here.
Keith, thank you so much. I feel so honored to be a part of this. And I think we're just one company out of many amazing entrepreneurs in this space who are doing some incredible work. So go team.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie. You've offered us incredible insights into the world of plant-based wellness and empathogenics, and we're looking forward to hearing more about your work at the Wonderland 2023 Miami conference. Remember, for those who are looking to attend, you can get a 20% discount off the cost of registration using the code Mindfulness20. Until next time, remember to stay mindful and stay well.